So I saw this video from this guy named Valicious. Okay, it's a very small channel, only 27 subscribers when I'm looking at it. The blatant negativity behind Ashen Creations needs to stop. And he's got a point. Okay, he does. He has a point. So everyone knows me. Everyone knows I've got opinions. Everyone knows that I'm a game dev. Everyone knows that I do my research and I do these things and I look into this stuff. And I really want to talk to you guys about this because it seems to be a big topic. It seems to be a topic that pisses people off, and there doesn't seem to be anyone that's willing to talk about the truth. Now, I have made 2 videos on Ashes of Creation in the past, and some of them were just debunking everything that fucking weirdo said when he blew up his entire career to nuke his relationship with this game. You build your whole channel off of it. The thing, and you want to go and nuke it, that's fine. But, at least do it with some fucking dignity and stop lying. So, here's where we are. Everyone knows me for telling the truth. And when I get something wrong, I'll take a whole fucking video down. I don't care. But I tell the truth, I do the research, I look into stuff, and here's the blatant truth of it. This guy is talking from a player's perspective. Okay? This guy's talking from a player's perspective, and that's totally fine. I don't think there's any problem with this guy talking about his perspective from playing the game and just having fun and not really knowing how everything works and not being able to communicate it. Okay? But when it comes to someone, I
wanted to talk about Ashes of
like me going out here and actually talking about things, it's a little different because I have more or less insider information into how all this stuff works. Now, in the previous video, which was maybe a year ago, I said that the game needed about 4 years. I believe I said 4 years to completion. I still maintain that it needs a little bit more time. But what everyone has to understand is, with MMOs, they all look pretty fucking rough until they're just about done. Where a lot of the systems are complete and everything is done and everything's filled out, all you're worried about is the graphics, getting the bugs out, and really kind of making things run better, look better, all that kind of stuff. But, hey, people don't know that. That's fine. I just really think that people should go back and look at any of these big MMOs, like Star Wars or what have you, and ESO and all that, and just really look at them maybe a year before launch. Whatever leaked stuff you can get. And then look at them in their current form. And especially something like World of Warcraft looks totally different from how it looked back then, right? Now, I know the cinematics for World of Warcraft have gone to the absolute shitter. That's not what I'm talking about. That's just them being stupid. But what I will say is this. I'm going to be honest. Okay? I'm an honest person. So when I say this, I'm being very serious. And I'm not going to pull any punches here. So if you came here thinking, oh yes, someone's going to defend the game. No, we're not playing this little I'm on this side, I'm on that side bullshit. It's going to be straight down the road. So both of you sides are going to hate me. Like always on every fucking video I do. On one side, we have the people who cannot stand the game, fucking cannot stand it, don't want it, hate it. It's doing too little, it's doing too much, it's this, it's that. Okay. And the others, we have the people who will defend it no matter what. Now, regardless of this, being in whatever you want to call it, alpha, beta, whatever you want to call it, because there are some technical definitions to those. And, would I say it's a beta? I don't know. Let's just focus on the fact that, in my opinion, graphically, the game looks rough. The environments look good, but I expect that. They upgraded from old Unreal to the new, I think they're in 5.2. I think they've upgraded all the way to 5.2. Now that takes time, and that eats away at their budget and their time doing other stuff. People don't understand. A lot of games will run themselves into the ground rather than upgrade to the latest patch of something on their engine. And because they choose to do a pre-built engine, there are some fucking hurdles to deal with. Unreal was not made with MMOs in mind. Let's just say that. I know that they've gotten better and they're expanding and they're trying to, they're realizing, this isn't, 2010 anymore. People are trying to make other games other than shooters with our engine. Great. That's fantastic. They're doing that. But they're not specifically designing easy solutions for these companies. These companies have to come up with custom solutions. And with custom, that costs money. Something else I'm going to talk about as far as money. Okay? This is an MMO. MMOs take the longest out of any games to make. Just on average. Okay? There are some outliers, but typically MMOs take the most because it's a lot of things. This is supposed to be a sandbox RPG. Okay? This is supposed to let you do what you want to do, and with sandbox also comes problems. When you have a game that's on rails and it's very specific, it is much easier to make the game than if you made a game where you can do anything. Because now the devs have to think about, anything, okay? This would not be your on-rails experience. This is, hey, have fun, here's the tools. Typically, in a single-player game, that's not a big issue. It actually allows the person playing the game to make their own fun. But given this is an MMO, there's a lot of different stuff you have to worry about and balancing and just things that, say, something like Skyrim really wouldn't have to deal with unless it was an MMO. And you see how that transition worked out when Elder Scrolls put out their MMO. I mean, it's less than ideal, okay? I don't really like the game. I've played the game. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the story. But do I love ESO? No, I don't think I do. And quite frankly, the graphics on this do remind me a lot of older games. And a lot of, if I'm honest, one of the ones that came to mind when I saw it was that the mobile one. Black Desert, I believe it's called. Or, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called Black Desert. I don't know why that didn't sound right, but the graphics remind me of that. And I don't know why. I am just saying that very clearly the graphics are an issue. Okay? Now, what is to be expected at this stage, though? These aren't the final graphics. We know that, for sure. We know that. They're still working on systems. I have worked on games, and trust me, you do not go knee-deep ass up, face down, graphically, when you have to get these systems done. You cannot afford. It's much better to have a game that works than a game that looks good. Trust me. You will always... I want you to think about Cyberpunk. I want you to think about all these games that look so good, that got you fucking idiots all riled up and hard, and you bought the fucking game, and what happened? They didn't work. And you were pissed. And they got pulled from fucking Sony, wouldn't even let people buy the fucking thing. So just so we're clear, a game that works is better than a game that looks good. Now you might be saying, but the game doesn't work. And it's like, no shit, Sherlock. It's not finished. They've never claimed that it was finished. And I want to be very clear with people. An average MMO takes about 6 years to make. Yes, everyone is saying that they're 10 years deep, and that's a problem. 9 or 10 years. It's more like 9 years, but, you know, I guess we can fight about it in the comments. I'm just looking at some of the notes I made here. Yeah, I mean, 9 years is not crazy. I mean, even Baldur's Gate made their game in a much longer time frame than they should have. But the overall result was so good, and thankfully, a lot of you didn't bitch at them for doing that thing. But honestly, they have so many people that work there. I just want people to be very honest about what they're criticizing. Steven Sharif has put up a significant amount of his own money. Okay? For the people who call this game a scam, I just don't know how to get through to you that if you're gonna scam people, don't fucking throw your own money at it. And I'm not talking about a small amount of money. I think this man has legitimately put up 40 to 50 million of his own money toward this game. And the budget, honestly, is only around 70, which is something else we need to talk about. The budget for this game is not crazy as it should be. Why? Because they have less employees than you think. Most of these big MMOs, they're throwing bodies and bodies at the problem. And he's not. He's taking a slow, monotonous approach to it. Get the game right, then release. They don't have a publisher pushing them. They don't have someone poking them on the shoulder telling them that they have to come out. They don't have anyone breathing down their necks, except for the player base apparently now has completely turned on them, which makes no sense because all of this effort and everything they're trying to do is literally for the player base. And from what I'm getting from this, people just don't seem to realize, or Steven Sharif has not publicly said, which is crazy to me, the facts of this game development. I'm sorry, but this guy spends every single day at an office with people he cares about, putting money and time and effort into a project he clearly believes in, and he either won't or can't or not allowed to legally come out and explain to everybody like I am what exactly the hurdles and the issues are, because I don't think everyone wants to hear it, quite frankly, which is embarrassing because you should want to hear the truth. The truth is that the game is still, in my opinion, maybe about 3 years off, 3.5. But they're hiring more every year. They're growing 18% on average since 4 years ago. You know? And it's like, why does the average consumer not have this data? Why does the average consumer that's complaining about the game not have the right numbers? I don't know. Quite frankly, everyone keeps saying that they have 250 employees working on the game. They don't. That's an insane number. It's much closer to 180. It's much closer to 170 to 180. And that's very low. Big MMOs take much more people. Actually, much more people. And I don't exactly know why that's not being talked about. Just on my notes here that I took, ESO, 200 plus developers, New World, 250 to 400 developers. These are people developing the game. This is not the size of the company. This is the amount of people developing the game. Okay? That's something, I don't know why we're getting this confused. A lot of these people that are throwing a lot of shade at this game want to say, well, the company is 250 people strong. Okay, well, we're not fucking talking about the bitch that gets coffee, are we? We're not talking about Miranda that takes people's lunch orders, are we? No, we're talking about the fucking developers, the people who are getting paid to make the game. And this number is, and honestly, for the most of the development cycle, they could not afford a high burn rate, okay? Burn rate is something that a company has to pay attention to, or the funding will run out and they will have to declare bankruptcy because they have interested parties, typically. Now with them, I don't think that they have interested parties except for the main guy who's pouring all his life and effort and energy into the game, which is very admirable because people do not do that anymore. You have to understand, in business, you do not put your own money in that pot. That is a big no-no. That makes him liable. That means if this game goes down and doesn't work and doesn't happen, he could be liable for the entire amount and the entire investment that he's put forth. And sometimes, in certain cases, in certain tax situations, it's not about just claiming bankruptcy. This thing could hit him for double what he put in. And it depends on who else is involved. All the different parties involved. And yes, I know everything's being run classically, through his C Corp or whatever they're filing as. But at the real end of the day, he has put forth way more money than anyone has even donated. I get that everyone is so pissed because they've donated this and they've paid for this and paid for that. But every single human being that has put money into this game is still less than a single person has dedicated. I need people to understand that, because that is something significant. That doesn't mean that this guy is going to work every day and just phoning it in like all these CEOs do. All these people who just yap and go up on stage and want to just jerk themselves off. Okay? I think about even Todd Howard with going up on stage and talking about Starfield and all the things that it was going to have. I just need you to understand that that's disgusting to see that kind of behavior. And Stephen Sharif gets excited about the game, but he doesn't go out and try to hype it up in a way that makes everyone so excited to just open their wallets. They've admitted that the way that they're trying to fund it is to keep all the bad things out that everyone complains about, by the way. Everyone complains about these publishers when a game does it. Everyone complains about the economy of gaming when they do it. Everyone complains about the system when these games give into it and do the things that they don't like. But when someone says, okay guys, I hear you, I'm not going to be that person. In fact, I'm going to risk my own money. That should be enough for people to at least give someone the benefit of the doubt. Because he's risking a lot here. He's risking a lot. And he's risking his entire career. Because this is a very public mistake. The game is very big. And it has a lot of backers. And you have to understand that there will be no second chances for this man. I don't know who would hire him after a fumble like this. So I think that everyone involved is pretty dedicated to getting the game where it needs to be. But the systems are most important, because one of the selling points of the game is no compromise. And the systems that they put in place, everyone seemed to be very happy about. People liked the idea of the player housing. People liked the idea of the node system. People liked the ideas. So why would you tell the game that you're not happy with them taking the time to put those in? Why would you want them to feature cut? Why would you want them to fill the game with filler content and just release? Why would you want them to do that? They're trying to make a game where the journey is the game, and people have claimed that that's what they want. And yeah, other MMOs have said that that's what they were going to do. A lot of them have lied, but they're actually doing it. And I'm not saying that this game is revolutionary in any sense, but I do think that for the people who are interested in what they originally had thought out, they're at least doing what they said they're going to do, which is very different. And they've been very open, and they've made these claims and honored them. Now, again, just so we're clear, the actual amount of people working on this right now used to be, just 4 years ago, like 70 people. Okay? The game has ramped up because they're having a lot of pressure put on them. And yeah, they are selling copies of the game and different packs to fund it. But that was always how they were going to fund it. That's what they said. And they always didn't, and they always had said in the beginning that, hey, you know, we don't feel comfortable with taking money unless we know we're there. And that's what they're saying to you with these bigger packs is, we're there. We just need to get across the finish line. And with the amount of money that he's donated, their burn rate is fine. For a company that size, I see no issue because their total budget is up to 70. And I'm going to be honest, for a game that's been worked on for 9 years, really, because you don't count the pre-development stages. I mean, for Christ's sakes, when do you start the game development? When people are just arriving at a new building, putting their desks together? Is that when you count when the game started? Really, realistically, the game has been in development for 9 years. And that's just giving them a little leeway. Because I understand that this was a startup, kind of. It was not just a hit the ground running, we have everything sorted out. And they had to ramp up their employee. They had to find people that they could trust to do a lot of things. We're not talking about a big company who has a guy for shoes. We're talking about hiring people that are dynamic, that you sit down in that interview and they say, look, can you wear a lot of hats? I might have you doing 3 different things. Are you cool with that? And that's important because that is the distinction between a more indie company, like a lower size company where it's like you're wearing a lot of hats, and a very highly specialized oiled engine that just chews up people and uses them and spits them out. There's a very big difference between those kind of setups. And with everything triangulating at the top, where Stephen Shreve is at the top, everything is funneling upwards. And, you know, it's probably not going to board of directors. He's having to make a lot of the tough calls. And a lot of his senior staff are trusted to make those calls. But 400 developers on New World, and, you know, WoW had a very small team in the beginning. 60 to 80 people were making WoW in the beginning. But that was a long time ago. And I understand why people are confused at this game, you know, because they put WoW together in like not that long of a time, like 5 to 6 years or less. But you know, once that game came out, their team expanded like crazy. It expanded. And when we look at Guild Wars 2, 150 to 250, you know, during core development. Yes, I was over 200. Star Wars Old Republic ballooned into 300. I mean, these are just raw numbers. And the reality is they had nowhere near that. They still have nowhere near that. And honestly, everyone tells indies to stay away from MMOs. And this is why. Is you need a lot of people, or it cannot happen in a timely fashion, and your burn rate grows, and you eventually have to just dip. But they didn't do that. They did the right thing. They stayed small, they stayed lean, and even the small amount of money that they got, they used super effectively. And they hired people that knew what they were doing, that could wear a bunch of hats. And they just put their fucking nose down and they did the work. And I just don't know how to explain, guys, that that is what old companies used to do. That is what companies that mattered used to do. They did the fucking job. And you know what? They're self-funded. There's no publishers. There's the only people that they're paying back is their staff and the people who put money in, and obviously the player base. And they'll pay you back with years of, and I'm not saying, yeah, it could be years of fun. But I'm not saying that this is going to be a revolutionary game. I'm not saying this is going to break the MMO market. I largely think that that was the hype of the people who looked at the game originally. That has nothing to do with the claims of the actual people who are making the game. That was all you guys. You're eating your own tail. You're going in a circle about the hype that the community created for itself, and then eating itself because the game is not living up to the hype. And it's like, why? My suspicion is that people are hurt. My suspicion is that people actually care way too much about it. My suspicion is that the people who are mad give a fuck about the game, which is annoying. Because I understand that process of like grief and that process gets in your head and it turns you into a piece of shit. But at the same time, you have to realize you're not wrong. The game is in a certain state, and that's okay. And given more time, it'll sort itself out. It has to. They're nearly there. These systems are almost in place. The world is filling up. It's getting, details, but then people coming out and trying to do hit pieces and blatantly lying on the internet. Every one of the people that comment right now that's wrong in my comment section for this video has the ability to go and Google stuff. Isn't that crazy? That instead of bitching at me, they could just go and check for themselves and figure out the truth. And I'm not saying listen to some YouTube commenter. I'm not even saying trust my words. You can Google everything I'm saying and get proved wrong. Everything I'm saying is correct because I know how these things work. With my other 2 videos I made on this, I did very clear. I had to make people understand the underlying infrastructure of how the servers work and how it actually is all put together because they were confused. I shouldn't have to do that. You can Google that. Not everything is this black box where you don't know how the sauce is made. Most things in a game, if you really want to know why does that snow not look as good? You could probably just Google it and ask, why does snow look bad in Unreal Engine? And it's like, oh, well, you got to do a bunch of, I'm not even actually saying that the snow looks bad. I'm just saying, understand that there are ways to solve your own issues without bitching and lying and doing hit pieces and making shit up and getting angry and doing all this stuff because I don't know who that serves. Like, you're mad, but you're going to play the game when it comes out? You care about the game? Because I see a lot of comments start off like that. Well, I used to care about the game. I loved the idea. I loved everything about it. But, I played when they said it's not finished, and I shouldn't have done that. It's like, I don't know how to tell people this, but every movie that you've seen in like the last 10 years especially, before that movie gets all those special effects, it looks like dog shit. If you actually seen all these scenes without all the recorded audio and the cleaning up, they look terrible. And this is the state that the game is in. The game is in a state that I would probably consider alpha, in my opinion. I don't think it's in a playable state. And I think the only reason they had to show it off and go ahead and let players in is because they didn't really have a choice. They've got people busting down their doors and trying to do hit pieces and lying about the state of development when they're just like, fuck it, open the doors, let them in, let them see how far we are with the game development pizza. But then people get in there and they're like, there's no sauce on it, there's no cheese on it. It's like, yeah, it hadn't even gone into the oven yet. We're getting there. We're putting it on now. So I think that Stephen Sharif has done a huge disservice to the community with not breaking down the things that I'm saying right now, because it's all verifiable stuff. Why not just publicly say how many people are working on the fucking game? Okay? Because he hasn't. You know? I mean, he has, but he hasn't verified, you know? It's you know, roughly this. You know, okay, there's probably 200 people at the studio, probably like 170 working on the game. Let's just be clear. And, you know, I think that they show signs of good stewardship. What is good stewardship? It's steady development, consistent communication, systems rebuilt when needed, combat, networking, animations, tech upgrades. They moved into Unreal 5. No real cash grab or outsourcing. Outsourcing is the biggest one. We know what that means. Dog shit. That's what outsourcing is. They're keeping it all in-house. They're doing what they're supposed to do. There's no publisher interference. There's no predatory monetization. And you can call selling packs predatory monetization, but for God's sakes, just choose the low pack. Choose the thing that's the cheapest and just play the game. You don't have to have that. You're only saying that it's a problem that they sell large packs or sell things for more money because you want it and can't afford it. Why not just be honest? That's the thing that annoys me, is the level of dishonesty from the people who are angry at them and trying to whatever. Now, if people were honest and they just said, you know, like, okay, some of the people see the development of this game and they know that an MMO is coming out and they have an MMO that they love and they know that it doesn't have many more years left in it. Let's be honest. I love EverQuest, but I know that for sure Daybreak is driving that company into the fucking ground. If this comes out, do people go from EverQuest to this? Possibly. Does that make me worried and mad? No, because I know that that's just a cycle. And one of the things that we don't know how to deal with because we've never been through a cycle like this, because gaming is so new, and it really is. Gaming has really only been around since the 80s in the way that we know it and like it. And quite frankly, let's be honest, we've never seen the full cycle. We've never seen the industry finally turn over. But we're going to finally see the full cycle of what that looks like within the next 20 to 30 years. And why am I saying that? It's because all the people that made gaming and did the stuff and did the work in those early days and made the stuff that we love, like EverQuest, are all dying, okay? And you'll never be able to talk to those people again. You'll never be able to ask them what made them tick. Some of these people were such incredible individuals and so smart and so technically savvy and so creative. And we do not have enough of those kinds of people to replace them. And what we're seeing is the industry just change over. Okay? And what my whole point about that is, we're having to come to terms with a lot of uncomfortable things. I would say that there's a lot of people who even say, like, I just can't play MMOs anymore. And realistically, there's a reason for that. We're seeing those cycles turn over. We're seeing that industry come full circle. And we'll get better games at the end of that cycle, when everything kind of flips back to indie, flips back to the 80s, where it was just some dudes in a room making a game. But I do think that this company represents the dudes in a room making a game. He's putting a lot of money into this and he does care about it. You can tell. But I just don't see why people can't sympathize with that and understand that regardless of what you want to believe or how you feel, this is what's happening. You know, this is what's happening. This is how it's going to be. And moving forward, that's just how it's got to be. You know, all of these games are getting monetized into the ground. It's the infinite game. It's them keeping everything up and going, and they just can't handle it. Okay, like it's not gonna keep going. It's not going to keep doing the things. It is just going to eat itself. You're not gonna get expansion 19 million out of a game. We are at the point where it's too expensive and people aren't willing to pay for garbage and they're leaving MMOs entirely. So, why wouldn't we want a new approach to that? Why wouldn't we want something a little different? You know, I would love to receive I would love to be in an era where we return to a monthly payment. Fuck this 100, 200, 300, $500 that they can squeeze out of you for battle passes and time limited things and this secret shops and that. I mean, look at League of Legends. It's getting worse and worse and worse. It has become a vehicle of money extraction. And what's sad is it works. It happens and we do it. And we eat shit, and we eat shit so politely, so daintily, that they know that if they just, you know, I think that these developers really just sit over there and they go, what if we just made $1,000 skin? Fuck it. You think they'll buy $1,000 skin? And just so we're clear, mobile games have already passed this point. Just so we're clear, mobile games have shamelessly, including Blizzard, with their the Diablo the Unfortunate, they have completely eaten the pie and shit it out and eaten the pie again with the amount of money they are able to extract from these fucking guys. So, but yeah. Anyway, look, I don't know why he keeps cutting um to other games in this. I don't know. He's probably talking about something. Um the point is, you know, we're talking about Ashes of Creation, and I just hope that I'm making sense to people because, like, am I pissed? Yeah, I'm pissed because the amount of dishonesty that's happening in the player base. I don't know why we can't just be honest about what we're feeling. I don't know why people can't say that, hey, I'm just mad because I thought the game would be out by now. I spent money on it and I just want to play the game and I just wish it was done already. Why is that not good enough? Why do you have to go overboard and try to justify it and try to hype it up and try to make it into something it's not and then turn into an enemy because the game doesn't look exactly like you thought? Like, MMOs cannot please everybody. An MMO that pleases everybody is dog shit. Okay? If you like PvP, you don't, and you make a PvP MMO, that's gonna polarize people. You know? I just don't think people can understand this, but an MMO cannot be all things. Because if it is a bad MMO. That's the truth. The truth is, when an MMO does not nail down its niche and offer that experience that someone is looking for, and I'm talking about the experience that someone really enjoys and the cycles that people really enjoy. Again, same reason why EverQuest still exists. No one can really nail down that cycle that they were able to get out of that game. And it just resonates with people because it's not a game for everybody. It is a game for fucking loser nerds like myself who play D&D and was like, "Oh my god, it's like the real D&D. It's like 3D. Oh my god." This was a cool thing. But the novelty is worn off, but even that game is still going. I just need people to understand that this game cannot be everything that everybody wants it to be. It's going to set out to be the things that it said it was going to be, and that has to be good enough. Now, if you don't like the graphics, I'm sorry. This is one of the points that I don't understand. While I don't think that the graphics are amazing, okay, at the same time, I do not believe that that should matter much, considering most of the MMOs that I have played or I have tried have had dog shit graphics. Can we be honest? Can we take a minute and parlay that and just say, let's leave graphics off the table for now till we see what happens? That most MMOs, new and old, have dog shit graphics. Why? Possibly because they need to. Possibly because the engines are custom solutions and they needed that kind of graphics in order to make it work. They need to keep, whatever server costs down. They needed to keep it running correctly. Who knows? There's like 101 reasons, oh, it's stylized. Okay. So now it has shitty graphics, but on purpose, and you love it. You love when developers say stylized, don't you, you whore? But let's be honest. Just saying stylized and serving up some hot shit doesn't always work. Now, I don't think that these graphics are stylized. I think that they're a hint of fantasy, and honestly, they kind of remind me also of like Lord of the Rings, but updated. They remind me of a lot of different things because I think they're trying to pull on different elements to make a style that kind of at least everyone's okay with. Because I'll be honest, I cannot remember the last time that I didn't hear someone bitching about WoW looking cartoony. Um, no matter how much they update those graphics, people are just, they hate it more and more. So I do think that it was a good idea to stay away from that look. And I do admire that they stayed away from this new mobile, like plushy look. I don't know how to describe it, but most of these new MMOs kind of look like Fortnite with this style that they're bringing out. It looks fucking bad to me. I don't like my MMOs to look like Fortnite either. Now, you could say, well, Fortnite actually looks good. Fine. Fortnite does. If Fortnite was an MMO, I wouldn't play it. Is that good enough? Can we at least get to a point where we can agree to disagree or agree to agree? Because I know that some of you are going to comment, and I'm going to have to reply to those comments. And I just want people to understand that I have taken the time to really think about what I've said. Okay? And I think if people are actually listening, they'll at least understand that I'm not coming from some weird place. I'm not making shit up or I'm not trying to be a dickhead on purpose. And I'm just explaining things and hoping that people understand. Um, this game is going to have so many things that people have asked for over the years that I've heard people ask for, and we tried to make an MMO, me and my friend. And I'll be honest, it is difficult to please everybody. And if they pull this off, it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a good thing because if they can pull this off, it signals to other developers that want to do the same thing that, it's possible. It's just a long fucking road to do it with no publisher and no everything. But it's a long road. But they set, quests, siege mechanics, naval system, huge crafting, caravans, trading, large scale PvP, open world bosses, hybrid combat, node leveling system, housing system, mount breeding. I didn't even know about that. Um, Dynamic cities that determined by players. You know, I honestly, when I think about it, don't know any game that's live that does have all those things. So, like, is there not an extremely large player base out there who says, I want that and is okay with waiting? Like, why not? Because, like, where are you going to get that experience other than, I mean, you can't even get that experience in a single player game, let alone an MMO, you know? And some of the ones that you can are not worth playing in a lot of ways. And the ones that are worth playing, and I think about like Albion and I think about that stuff. Part of the reason that they're not worth playing is as people are bad at PvP, and it's very punishing. But like that's sort of the reward in an MMO is you get stronger, and you do pick on people that are worse than you by you being stronger and more, you know, better than them or whatever, right? But that's kind of my point is you're stronger, you're better, the systems are unfair, people quit. And that happens with everything. That's why I think MMOs are just not the games for PvP. Okay? PvP does best when, I mean, look at this Ark game that came out. Ark, it's fun. Perfect place for PvP. Looter shooter type game. Perfect place for PvP. I think consensual PvP in an MMO can be fine, but I do think that it off-puts most people. Why? Because most people are not like gamers like that. And I do see how it would be annoying with all of the different little things. Because anytime that you have a game like that, where you have the PvP in it, you have to balance it in a way that seems fair, even though it's not. And, you know, you have to worry about like, oh, well, like anyone can group up in a big party and kill you. Now you have Rust. You know, and people hate that. They have to make servers that literally limit the amount of people that can be in a group, you know, just to make it fair. So I'm just saying there's not a lot of good ways to balance the PvP issues. And like everyone claimed a long time ago that they wanted a full loot MMO. And honestly, some games tried to do that. But it's also hard because you have to understand, as developers, listening to the audience tell you what they want is often a double-edged sword, because sometimes the player doesn't know what they want. The player doesn't know what they want, you know, and then sometimes it's crazy. You have, I would say, about 10% of your community are just idiots, at least. And I'm not talking about normal idiots. I'm talking about these are way wacko people. You'll be like, yeah, we'll listen to anybody's suggestions. They put a suggestion box out, and then here comes Timmy with his, well, why can't there be mechanized fighting plane robots? Why not? I said, because this is a fantasy MMO. Yeah, but why don't you just have a class that makes them? And he sounds smart on paper, and I'm sure Timmy would get people excited. But the reality is, those things are not the scope. When developers are looking for suggestions, they're like, suggestions for the scope, not fucking plane robots that are sentient life and actually an entire class, and like, oh, actually, like, yeah, and the plane people come from Mars, and like actually, wow, and it's the past, and this is Earth, and you know, like, fucking shut up. You know you're being an idiot, and people like that get mad when people no one takes their advice, because if those people made a game, it would be the most shitty, terrible mess to play, and no one would ever like those games that they make. But when they hear those people talk, they kind of get behind them because they're like, oh yeah, that would be cool. Oh my god, Timmy, you're so right. That would be so cool. But those people are so fucking incoherent and ADHD and all the other letters in the alphabet that if they actually could make a game, which is it's coming around, this AI stuff's getting crazy. They'll release one of these shittiest, terrible, unplayable messes that you've ever seen. You have to stay in scope. You have to stay on design. You have to stay in the realm. You have to establish what can happen, and you have to play off of the elements that you've designed. You cannot just sit there and just add, like, well, why can't we add tanks? Even though that has happened. That one has happened in an MMO that was a fantasy MMO. It was a Greek MMO. I can't remember the name of right now, but they had tanks that dwarves made. Regardless, I think at the same time, I've covered a lot of this stuff that I had on my notes here. I just hope that I've covered everything that people are complaining about. Okay? Because this video was meant to really just hammer everything home. Okay? I don't know how to put it all into words. I don't know how to put it all into words where people can understand, because everyone's going to come out fist swinging in the comments, even though the reality is what I'm saying is very true. And for some reason, it comes from this place where they say, oh, well, everyone just says it's in beta or it's in alpha and to fuck off. So how can we make the game better? It's like, well, you had years to suggest things. And this company did listen to those suggestions, by the way. Things changed. Things were listened to. They made those changes in development. They did those things. You've had years. Okay, and as we get closer to those things, like, now is not the time to be adding and changing large scope of the game. And I think some of the stuff that people are complaining about is bugs. Because the game is unplayable, in their opinion. To which I'll say that's totally valid, but at the same time, it is because it's not finished. Those bugs will get worked out in the final product. We're still, again, at least 3 years out. I don't know how hard they're going to ramp up. Yeah, if they hire another 100 employees, go ahead and cut that down to a year and a half, maybe 2 years. But even if they hire another 100 people, that's just asking for a mess, because anytime that you overreach, and by overreach I mean when you hit that point where you go over 150 employees, it's a problem. It's a huge problem. You don't want to ever go over 150 employees. It becomes unmanageable. You have to have so many layers in place, and you have to have teams not fucking around. And I think that's what some of these people do. Some of these people feel like they've earned their degrees and they get these jobs and they get this cushy pay and they just expect to be pampered, because largely that's what game studios have done. And I know you guys have talked about crunch this, crunch that in the past, but my God, losing a little sleep and a little time away from the family, and I get this, some people are not workaholics. If the game is about to release and you're preparing for a launch date and things aren't done, let's just go out on a limb and say maybe we should have been a little bit more productive earlier in the year. Because at the end of the day, it is on the developers to hit those schedules. It is on the developers to do the job that they're paid to do. And I do think, and I'm sorry, but I've had conversations with people behind closed doors. I've had conversations with people that are developers that they would never say in public because they'd be fired. Okay? And I know that there's abusive situations, and I know that there's all types of situations that go on behind closed doors. I've been a party to those too. But I think at the end of the day, you have goals to meet. You got to hit those goals, and there's no excuses in the world. You're being paid to do this job, and you know what? If these guys were like oil workers or something like that, and they were like worried about their lives, it would be kind of different. But it's just people who know that they are needed in an industry. Okay? The industry for a long time was growing, and they needed to be, it needed programmers. It had to keep feeding itself. And the salaries for these people just bloomed so big. And we're not even talking about the bonuses. We're talking about just the salary. And, you know, people look at 60 grand nowadays and they scoff at it, while there are people literally not able to feed their children. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, well, I've got loans. I got to pay back my loans with my 120K a year job. Like, I think you should manage. I think you'll manage. There are people doing worse, and there are people with worse jobs. And these complaints from these pampered people are crazy. If you're in the games industry and you don't understand the sacrifices that you have to make, like myself, I sacrificed my health. I'm not afraid to say it. I did that. Why? I enjoy the job. I enjoy the work. It entertains me. It keeps me sane. I love the job. I love the job. And I don't make excuses. I just get shit done. You know? I know that I'm one of those people who I don't tell somebody, "Oh yeah, give me about 2 weeks. I'll get it to you the next fucking day." You know why? Cuz I'm a stand-up guy. I don't fuck around with other people's money. I charge less for what I do. I do the work. I get results. That's the type of guy I am. And yeah, if I make other people look bad because they can't do the same thing, I don't give a fuck. They can feel bad all day long. My point is, I've talked to a lot of these people, and there are a lot of genuinely good people that need jobs. There are a lot of genuinely passionate people that need jobs, and a lot of good people get fucked over. Okay? But a lot of shitty people seem to worm their way into positions that they don't belong in. Now, why am I ranting about this? I'm ranting about this because a lot of the stuff that we see is going on in these companies is not really reflective of like Stephen Sharif or whatever. It's the people that they hire. And I feel like the people that they've hired for his studio must have been handpicked, which is very rare. Usually you'll just have someone phone it in and have a hiring manager do all the stuff. Like, you know, he won't even meet them. But why do I feel like this dude handpicked these people? Especially in the beginning. I feel like the MMO is in a good space. It's on track for development. And despite it taking a long time, and maybe it won't be the most revolutionary thing ever, it won't be a disappointing product if we just give it time and chill the fuck out. But people can't be honest. People don't want to take it from a realistic perspective. And I honestly believe, in my opinion, that a lot of the people that are angry just care way too much about the game. Okay? And for whatever reason, they're lashing out. Regardless, I think that everyone should, have a listen to this guy. I mean, he's not as technical as I am, and he doesn't know a lot of that stuff, but he's got points. And I think if you look at this guy, he's like your average kind of guy, right? He's your average kind of guy, and that should mean something that even average people are putting into context some of the stuff that I have said. And I'm just saying, uh, the game could be in a lot worse state, and it could be under. It could have just go under, but it's not. It's just fine. It's right on track, and I think people need to give it the respect that it deserves. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel. Now, if I have pissed anyone off, I will reply to every comment. And if you are mad at me, I'm sorry. I'm just, I've had enough of the bitching that I see online everywhere. And I just needed to make it very clear what's going on. So hit me up in the comments. I wouldn't mind talking to people, and that's totally fine. I will see you guys in the next one.